Good evening, doctors across the country. I am Ajay Garge from Sun Pharma. I welcome you all to this important academic evening. Sun Pharma has been a front runner in scientific and academic endeavor, and we had been connecting the experts internationally and nationally known figures. And today, this evening, we are having two experts, Dr. Samit Lal and Dr. Prakash K. Munka.
Thank you,
Dr.
Mr.
Prakash K. Munka would be the moderator for Dr. Samit Lal sir. Dr. Prakash K. Munka did his MBBS from the Jamshedpur MGM Medical College, joined the Bokaro Steel Plant. Then he completed his MS ENT from the RIMS Ranchi in 1992, and he was continued with the Bokaro in Department of ENT. He had advanced practical training in KM Hospital, Mumbai. Then he decided to go to KSA for 2 years from the Government of India assignment. Worked as a consultant of ENT in Ministry of Health at KSA, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. He visited many ENT centers in USA and European countries, and he retired from the Bokaro as Joint Director and HOD of ENT in November 18. He has been associated with many academic committee, and he has presented many papers in national and international repute conference. He presented papers in most of the steel doctors in state, zonal, and national conferences and won many awards, especially the AOI Gold Medal for the best poster in 2 consecutive years and a silver in next. He had won consultant award papers and ISO poster award in this name a few, as gold medal for the ICS International College of Surgeons Indian Chapter Conference. So we have a great speaker and moderator this evening. I request Dr. Prakash Munka sir to take up the session ahead and introduce Dr. Samit Lal sir. Sir, open to Dr. Prakash sir.
Thank you very much for a detailed introduction. Uh, at the onset, I must thank the Sun Pharma for organizing such a common topic. This topic, snoring and sleep apnea. All of us are aware, snoring is a very, very common problem. Almost everyone suffers from snoring. Degree may be from very mild to severe. And always when we are not aware that snoring is always associated with OSA. Our target audience is GPs and ENTs. Since we had lot of sessions on OSA in the form of panel discussions and problem-based surgical parts, and continuously in the lockdown period, we had almost more than 10 webinars. So I requested Dr. Lal not to go in that much details on the surgical part and the OSA part. Just he will be touching. Time will be left for audience question answer. I want it to be interacting. We talk all evidence-based and not only hearsays or myth. Dr. Samit Lal has done his MBBS in 1999, MS in 2003 from my institute, that is the same from where I have done RIMS. He worked as a registrar in Jaslok Hospital, Mumbai, 2003-4, and as an associate professor from 2004 to 2010 in Somaiya Medical College, Sian, Mumbai. After gaining so much of experience, then he came to Ranchi and working in his own hospital, that is Dr. Lal's ENT hospital. He has pioneered in endoscopic coblation surgery of ear, nose, and skull base, had training of endoscopic ear surgery from Germany. Incidentally, he is also our organizing secretary for the forthcoming national conference, that is AOICon 2021. With these words, I call upon Dr. Samit Lal to have his presentation. Dr. Samit Lal, please.
Thank you, Dr. Prakash Munka sir. Thank you for the generous introduction. And today we will speak on snoring. I have kept it very simple. All of us suffer from snoring, and a lot of snoring is also sleep apnea. But all snoring is not sleep apnea. We must understand that. And my focus would be on the basics on when to treat snoring as a disease, when to get worried, and when to look for help, and how to avoid snoring, and how to avoid this getting into sleep apnea. So if all of us are ready here, should I start my presentation?
Yeah, you can share your screen, please.
Okay. So can you see, Dr. Munka sir?
Yeah, you can make it full screen and start.
So snoring and sleep apnea. What is snoring? Snoring is the hoarse and harsh sound that occurs when air flows through the relaxed tissues in your throat, causing the tissues to vibrate as you breathe. So this is the basic definition of snoring. So everybody snores now and then, but for some it is a chronic problem, serious health condition. And snoring also has a lot of nuisance issues, as in your partner not sleeping, you disturbing when you're traveling in a train or in a aircraft. So what are the basic modifiable risk factors for OSA? Most importantly, it is obesity, overweight. Most of us, we get fat deposition in the neck, and as we age, the tissues become lax, then becomes a major reason for snoring. Contributing to snoring is alcohol, smoking, nasal congestion, and in women, estrogen depletion. Snoring is often associated with OSA. When will you call snoring an OSA? I will tell you the following symptoms. They are witness breathing pauses during sleep. Suddenly you stop breathing. Excessive, and you stop breathing for like 2 minutes, 1 minute. Excessive daytime sleepiness, difficulty in concentrating. You're snoring and you get up and you have a sore throat, or you have a morning headache. You have sleep which is restless. You're not sleeping well. Sometimes you get people choking at night, getting up in the middle of the night because of snoring. Then these symptoms, if you find in people who have already snoring, then this is obstructive sleep apnea or OSA syndrome. Then snoring can lead to, OSA will lead to high blood pressure. Sometimes even patients complain of chest pain. And in children, OSA is also a reality in children. In children, snoring leading to OSA can cause poor attention span, poor performance in school, and other behavioral issues. So OSA is characterized by loud snoring, followed by periods of silence when breathing stops or nearly stops. So this reduction or pause in breathing may signal you to wake up, and you may wake up with a loud noise or a gasping sound. So when your patients come to you with these complaints and they snore, then you're pretty much very sure that the patient is developing obstructive sleep apnea syndrome. So they will have hypopnea, apnea, daytime sleepiness, and altered cardiopulmonary function. See, OSAS is my stress here would be that should not be taken lightly. This is a serious disease, long-term problem, and can cause stroke or other cerebrovascular incidents, even cardiovascular incidents. And this is one of the important risk factors for hypertension. So this we must think about, and people who snore and have these symptoms should be further investigated to see whether they are developing obstructive sleep apnea syndrome or not. It has high prevalence and it is mostly goes undiagnosed. So it is to be considered that even mild obstructive sleep apnea is associated with significant morbidity. It is one of the leading causes of mortality in adults due to hypertension, cardiovascular, and cerebrovascular disease. And it is a public health problem because if you do not sleep properly, you have daytime sleepiness, you have impaired cognitive function, and there have been so many incidents of car crashes and other job-related accidents happening in the offset because of snoring, because of obstructive sleep apnea syndrome. So what happens? There is an alternation because of weight gain. There will be alternation in the upper airway structure. So the geometry of the upper airway gets altered and also its function. So the airway gets compromised and there is a disturbance of the relationship between respiratory drive and load compensation. And this gets exacerbated because of obesity, and obesity per se will also cause functional residual capacity to decrease and whole body oxygen demand also to increase. So you have more, you'll be panting for breath, and when you sleep, this results in obstructive sleep apnea syndrome. See, there have been so many research. So this is one graph I'm showing that weight loss, can actually alter your apnea hypopnea index. So if you have a high incidence of apnea hypopnea, people who start losing weight, the index starts going down. So see, this is the normal round, nice airway. Obese people, because of the fat deposition and the lax tissues in the muscles, see how the airway becomes soft. And of course, the anatomical problem also when you have people who have a small mandible, small maxilla. So for them, snoring is a reality and leads to obstructive sleep apnea syndrome. You can see here in this graph which I'm showing, the factors which contribute to snoring: small mandible, fat deposition, so extraluminal positive pressure obstructing the airway, then traction. So how do you diagnose this? So diagnosis of OSA is a clinical diagnosis as well as with objective sleep study and diagnostic sleep endoscopy. The basic tools which we have to diagnose OSAS is clinical, history examination, then the sleep studies, which is polysomnography or even sleep study in your home, and then we do a diagnostic sleep drug-induced endoscopy. So what happens with drug-induced endoscopy? We induce sleep, and it would happen at night in operation room, and then we do a flexible nasal and laryngoscopy to see which part of the soft tissue inside the nasopharynx is collapsing causing snoring. So these are the basic tools, and ESS is a questionnaire which we give to patients to assess themselves how bad their snoring is and how they are dozing off in various situations, like when they are driving, when they are working. So daytime somnolence is an important factor which we need to assess and ask the patients. So the patient who have been suspect of OSA, if they fulfill the criteria 1, A and B, and plus they should have criteria C. So either A or B plus C. So what is A and B? A is excessive daytime sleepiness that is not explained by other factors. B, they should have 2 or more of the following. What are these? Choking or gasping during sleep, recurrent awakenings from sleep, unrefreshing sleep, daytime fatigue, impaired concentration. So if your patient complains of 2 of these findings, he is a potential OSA patient. And just if he is complaining of only of excessive daytime sleepiness, then also is a potential patient of OSAS. And C is, then we do the test, we do a sleep study, and if the sleep study demonstrates 5 or more obstructed breathing events per hour during sleep. So it is normal in an hour for a normal person to get the breathing obstruction below 5. So till 5 is acceptable, but if the apneas and the hypoapneas are increasing above 5, then it is a problem. These events may include any combination of obstructive apnea or respiratory effort related to arousal. So if the apnea, sleep apnea incidence is between 5 to 15, then it is a mild OSA. If the apnea, hypoapnea events are between 50 to 30, it's moderate. And if the patient is getting more than 30 events in an hour, then it is a serious, severe problem. So what is the gold standard? Ideally, the gold standard is polysomnography. This will provide you the detailed information on how the patient slept all night, what was the respiratory gas exchange, what was the problem in the respiratory gas exchange, and also other variables including the position of the body, heart rate and rhythm, muscle tone and contraction. So full polysomnography is the gold standard, but because of constraints of setting up a polysomnographic clinic and investment and difficulties in accessing such kind of clinic, so now we have toned it down to a sleep study at home. It's a simpler, like see in a polysomnography, it should include an EEG, an EOG, an EMG, then should assess the oronasal flow, the chest wall effort, position of the body, the loudness of your snoring, of course the ECG and the oxyhemoglobin saturation. So in all these, now what people are doing, moving on to the basic, which everybody can have access to, can do it, and the patients will also have a reasonable good diagnosis. So oxyhemoglobin saturation is an important criteria. ECG is an important criteria. Then apnea, hypoapnea, assessment of the apnea and the hypoapnea in the whole episode. So these are the three, I'll show you. These are the three basic
Anishant?
requirement. So this is what a polylogic report appears like, and we depend on this. We calculate the BMI, because taking the BMI of the patient is also very important, because what treatment you would offer that person depends a lot on the BMI. Then we can assess the apnea hypoapnea index, the oxygen desaturation index. Now you can see in this patient, the apnea hypoapnea index was 71, which is quite a lot. And the patient, see the fluctuation in the heart rate, maximum pulse rate went up to 112, then minimum went up to 24. And there were events of hypoapnea for almost 1 minute, apnea for 1 minute. So this is the basic assessment we do to assess how bad. So this patient obviously lies in the severe category. So basically what we require for a polysomnography is a 6 hour study. So sometimes we, in a few 2 or 3 hours of study, we can see that the patient has severe OSA. Then we can put a CPAP and see how the AHI improves. So, you know, you can break this into 2 halves, one with proper snoring and OSA event recording, and then putting a CPAP and then recording and assessing whether the patient is, because this is what we can offer to the patient in a severe OSA. One of the treatment modality is a CPAP machine. Another thing which we do is drug-induced sleep endoscopy. So this is one evaluation technique that involves assessment of the individual under pharmacological sedation that is designed to stimulate natural sleep. And then we use a fiber optic endoscopy to examine the upper airway to see which part of the upper airway is collapsing the most, causing snoring and causing OSA. So this is a small video clip of the fiber optic endoscopy. DICE. You can see how narrow the airway is. Patient is snoring. I'm sorry, I could not record see the snoring, the vibration. You can see the uvula coming and collapsing in the upper airway. See, this is the uvula collapsing. So this is an upper airway collapse happening. There is a lateral walls are coming in the midline, and uvula and the palate is falling into the oropharynx. And you will see that the larynx is absolutely fine. The epiglottis is absolutely fine. The base of tongue is fine. So this is the lateral pharyngeal bands collapsing and the palate. You can see the larynx very clearly, epiglottis clearly. So this is what a normal DICE would look like. Now, once we have diagnosed, we know it is a problem, and it can cause a lot of morbidity and even mortality. So important thing is, how do we treat it? So the best remedy, which all of us can offer to our patients initially, is weight loss. You can see weight loss interventions. There have been researches with controlled treatment for patients, so who have an AHI between 9 and 37, and BMI, higher BMI, more than 2. So weight loss, you can see statistically significantly reduced the AHI scores in the groups receiving weight loss intervention. So most of the studies have reported successfully that weight loss can be of help and sometimes even curative in patients of OSA. So lose your excess weight, exercise regularly, the muscle tone should be good, because if you have a good muscle tone, chances are that snoring will not cause sleep apnea. Avoid alcohol and any sedative before sleeping. Change of posture. Sleeping on the sides can help people who are snoring and are potential candidates for OSA. And of course, smoking is one of the important factors which we need to tell our patients to stop to prevent OSA. The second treatment modality, if the patient is unable to lose weight, the patient continues snoring, AHI not falling down, blood hypertension there. So what we can offer is CPAP machines. Now CPAP machines are continuous positive airway pressure machines. They use mild air pressure and they can be used at night and keeps the airway patent. So why? Because the collapsibility goes away. There is air pressure will keep the soft tissues prevent them from collapsing. CPAP in candidates who we have selected properly and we've given a CPAP trial, these definitely work in patients with moderate OSA. severe, sometimes even the CPAP machines do not work. This is our CPAP machine. It's a cumbersome device. If the CPAP is not working, patient's weight loss is not happening, then there are surgeries which we can offer to the patient. And even young patients who do not want to use a CPAP machine, surgeries have proven to be of good help and are almost curative in OSA. So very commonly performed surgery is a uvulopalato-pharyngoplasty, UPPP. People use coblation technique, laser or radio frequency to ablate the soft tissue in the oropharynx, which is collapsing, causing OSA. Then we can do, depending on the DICE finding, you can do a pharyngoplasty along with tonsillectomy, adenoidectomy. You can also combine, nasal septal deviations or nasal turbinate reductions, so that the idea is to keep the airway patent from the nasal cavity up to the larynx, so that the patient is not going into OSA and is relieved. This is a small clip I'll show you of coblation assisted UPPP with tonsillectomy, which we do. You can see you can have a nice, the anteroposterior as well as the lateral, both the diameters increase substantially. In fact, we can also do the tongue base becomes thick, so tongue base channeling can be done with the coblation technique. So that overall improves the airflow inside the cavity, causing reduction in snoring and improvement in the AHI score. The prevalence of OSA range from 0% to 5.57% in normal population. That's a research. And obesity was the single biggest risk factor. And because of OSA, you had cardiovascular growth in children, growth and neurobehavioral abnormalities also, and possibly inflammation in children. So tonsil adenoidectomy in children who are potentially suffering from obstructive sleep apnea, leading to poor performance in the school, poor ability, unable to concentrate, and are obese. Tonsil adenoidectomy is a good method to relieve people of children of OSA. And there have been numerous research and study. This is adenoid I'm removing. So OSA may improve after adenotonsillectomy, even in obese children. This is the research which I found, and people have done this, that supporting surgery as a reasonable initial treatment. Now we can also, in severe patients of severe OSA, we can offer CPAP, but for children, using a CPAP machine is not a very good idea, because acceptability is not there. So for this reason, it's a major so for this reason, CPAP is not recommended as a first line in children, and tonsil adenoidectomy is an option in children. So we can conclude that snoring and sleep apnea is a lifestyle disorder. Pediatric sleep apnea is a reality. We must be aware of this, because this can retard growth and cause endocrinal abnormalities also. Early detection and treatment is the key, so as to not the patient developing hypertension or any cerebrovascular incident or a neurovascular incident or a cardiovascular. So we can, if detect it early, treat it early, and prevent a lot of morbidity and mortality in people. So it can prevent hypertension, stroke, and other cardiovascular abnormalities. CPAP therapy is suitable and definitely yields result. But before we offer CPAP for surgery, lifestyle modification is what we should offer our patients. And surgery is the curative treatment. But in surgery, we have the patient selection for surgery, identifying the site of obstruction, and because it's a variable, one person may require a particular type of surgery, the other person may require. So we have to be very objective with that, select our patients properly, and do that surgery which will benefit your patients the most. So that is how I conclude my presentation, and I thank you for being there.
Excellent presentation, Dr. Samit.
Thank you, sir.
I think you have covered most of the part. Hardly left anything much to be done by me. I will like to just say a few points. Like snoring is noise produced. You have covered OSA very well. Some part of the snoring which was missing, I will add upon that.
Yes, sir.
Snoring is a noise produced by vibration of upper airway walls as a result of partial upper airway obstruction during sleep. So there is a noise produced. These are few of the conditions which causes your snoring. Associated with OSA, and the conservative treatment, whatever you explained very well, they will hold good for the snoring.
Yes.
It is said that snoring can be there without OSA, but converse is not true. If there is a OSA, there has to be a snoring. So it is it is not only a dictum but a rule. Whenever you plan any surgery for snoring, you must have a sleep study, may it be class 3, class 4 home studies, just to check your AHI index and any.
Very true, sir. So
that,
you cannot do a surgery without a sleep study and a diagnostic endoscopy.
Right. At least a sleep study.
Two basic tools you will require.
Yeah, because if you treat the this thing snoring, it is like you are removing the buzzer from your monitor. So if something goes wrong, it will be a silent death. And as I said earlier, this is a very, very common thing. The literature says primary snoring is defined as a noisy breathing without OSA. So the history itself will, number one, point to the OSA or not, which you have mentioned also. There will be a phases of snoring, silence followed by a sharp shouting sound. So as I said, minimum is the if not full PSG, minimum a pulse oximetry or class 3 study should always be done. About coming to the snoring surgery, I will just add upon certain, because you have covered most of OA surgery, something less than that. Since the obstruction start from the nose, if you treat DNS, hypertrophied inferior turbinates, usually if you treat the DNS, turbinate hypertrophy goes off. You may need RF, or you can do a submucous diathermy or partial turbinectomy. Then about, you said very correctly about the palatal surgeries. Palatal is usually, nowadays, the barbed wire is very good thing to do. Even if you don't have the barbed wire, you can do with simple sling operation that gives a good relief. And it goes without saying, the direction like positioning in the bed, supine people cause more than if you sleep prone or sides, that is better. In nutshell, I think everything is been covered. I will like to take questions by me and author. He is the presenter. He should address most. I noted some question, very interesting question by Jyoti Lingam from Coimbatore. Is snoring lovable or irritating?
Snoring is definitely irritating.
My answer in the same way will be, if it is from your fiancé, it is lovable, but if it is from your wife, it is irritating, or the vice versa. Again, somebody asked about the music
I think
therapy.
that somebody's asked for loud snoring in females by Dr. Jyotirlingam only.
Yeah.
So I think he's not mentioned the age here. And menopausal women, because of estrogen depletion, have they lose their tone. So
Okay.
that can cause, a laxity of the pharyngeal wall, causing snoring.
So in nutshell, if
Yoga,
any cause which is causing the narrowing of the upper airway, we should think over. There is one question by Dr. R.K. Jha. Does thyroid disorder has any role in causing snoring? Yes. If it is hypothyroid, yes. Hyper, no. Because hyper will call thinning, not the accumulation of fluid. So hypo, yes. Do you agree with me?
Hypothyroid, weight gain.
Yeah. But hyper,
muscle tone.
Yeah, but hyper will never have. Your take?
Yeah, surely. Hyperthyroidism is
Yeah.
The patient is poor, thin and has a hyperactive patient.
Somebody asked about the choice of drug in DIAS. Saharanpur, Dr. S.K. Raheja.
Choice of?
Drugs in DIAS.
Choice of drugs. So normally what I use is propofol, which I find very close to the natural sleep. Then my anesthetist and I saw a lot of research and papers of people are using dexmedetomidine. So that also is also very close to propofol. But me and my anesthetist, we prefer propofol because induction is faster and it almost mimics the natural sleep, and the snoring is, we can induce snoring with that. And Dexmed takes a little more time to induce sleep. I think we have lost Dr. Moonka here. I'm not able to see him. Is there anybody from Sun Pharma here?
Pramod or Ajay, you can take the question.
Yes, sir.
So
I think my audio got a bit disturbed. Yeah.
So I cannot see the questions on the chat, so you can. Where are you seeing the questions, sir?
At the down below.
There's some network problem.
About that I was talking. Some of the international guys, they say that enough. I agree with you. Do you agree with me?
Sir, the audio is breaking. The audio is breaking. Sir, I'm not able to hear you. Your audio is breaking. Hello.
Yes, sir.
I said anything which suits you is good enough.
Sorry, sir. We've totally missed it. Did you get it, Mr. Ajay?
No, sir. His voice is breaking, in fact. Yeah. So there are some questions. They are the, I think, off track. Some doctors, they are asking Dr. Anant Bhargav from Gwalior, the cause of snoring and precaution. Can you answer, sir?
Okay. So like I told in my presentation, weight loss, snoring is basically, it is established that the upper airway gets narrowed, and mostly when overweight people. So precaution is don't become overweight. Very important. Exercise regularly. Keep your muscle tone good. And of course, avoid any kind of sedative, alcohol, smoking, because all these factors will narrow your airway. So the precaution is have a healthy lifestyle, do yoga. Boss, there will be no snoring, no OSA.
Yes, very correct. Now you are getting my voice?
Yes, sir. Now
yes.
Yeah. Probably net. Yeah, Ajay, if there are other questions, please repeat.
Yes, sir. He has explained that yoga role is there. The doctor is asking from Coimbatore that is there any role of yoga for the sleep apnea? You have explained that there is a different role of that. And then there is one question
Yes.
that there is any music therapy can help to the patients?
To that, I will say yes for the partners, not for the person who is suffering.
Okay, okay.
I think you will agree with me, Samit.
Surely, sir.
Uh,
How many
as,
people are
as,
connected, Mr. Ajay?
yes, sir.
How many people are connected right now?
More than
It's
1,000 I saw last.
Okay.
Again, I need to
1,400.
recheck. And there was
More
some.
than 1,400.
Oh,
Okay.
that's very nice.
We
Yes.
cannot see on our screen. That's the thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. If there are more questions, please take up.
yeah. I'm just seeing.
I just saw one question from Mr. Dr. Pramod Singla from Bangalore. No, yes, Dr. Kumar from Bangalore. Can you combine nasal and UPPP in one go? Is it safe? Sir, I've been doing septoplasty along with UPPP for a long time now, together only, UPPP and septoplasty, UPPP adenoidectomy, UPPP turbinate reduction. And I've not had any problem till now. And the patients have been, touch wood, all my patients have done well, and I've not had any post-operative issues also with them.
I think again, it will be depending on your experience. You have your own setup and your backup team. So do what.
Sir, one
And
Dr.
we've lost
Ashok
him.
Masan, Dr. Ashok Masan from Gwalior, he is asking that any
If you are
preventive
not very
medication? Any
Preventive
preventive medication?
No, there is no
Yeah, go ahead.
medication as such, preventive medication which we can give. But yes, we can give medication to reduce the nasal congestion. So patients who snore, can be given nasal sprays before going off to sleep, and good oral hygiene using mouthwashes. But then these are all empiric therapy. There is no definite medication which can be given.
I will like to say a word about here.
Yes, sir. I think Dr. Saab is
It's a
facing
good remission, and
some
so that must be used before going for surgery.
Okay, sir. Yeah. So I think we have covered, sir, most of the questions.
Well, there is one question I'm seeing again. Dr. Prakash Kumar from Ranchi is asked, how can it cause growth retardation? Sir, it has been seen that pediatric OSA a lot of time goes undiagnosed. Now, OSA will cause oxygen desaturation. OSA will cause a young child is depleted of oxygen. There is erratic pulse, so pediatric patients going into apnea, hypoapnea will cause a lot of metabolic changes in the body, hormonal changes, leading to neurological problems, growth retardation, and mental growth also gets delayed. And this has been researched and seen by, and there's been a lot of paper on this, and it is a reality. So we must accept it and try to identify pediatric OSA and treat them. Let it not go untreated, because by letting it go untreated, we are harming the child more than we're trying to protect him. So let's face it. Let's look for pediatric OSA is what my message to everybody is.
It's more important than your food. You can survive without a food, but air, how can you survive without it?
So there's another question from Dr. Ganesh Banga from Maharashtra. He's asking the type of surgery, how do you decide? See, again, it depends on the AHI. How bad is the AHI? Then I do a diagnostic sleep endoscopy, drug induced. So that mostly gives me the information that where the obstruction is the maximum and what I need to do, whether it is upper airway, as in the oropharynx, upper, mid, or lower, whether epiglottis needs to be worked on, whether base of tongue is the trouble, whether there is a concentric collapse or anteroposterior. That It is what makes me decide where I would like to intervene for a good result in OSA.
If I put it in the other way, probably once we have decided, we have to see whether there is an anteroposterior collapse, lateral collapse, and the level of collapse. Because that is very important. Sometimes it may be multi-level surgery required.
Correct, correct. And patient might require 2 or 3 sessions, you know?
Sessions, yeah, true. So each individual case will be assessed on the case-to-case merit basis. Next.
There is one more question.
There is, yeah, if you can go ahead.
Patient have symptoms of OSA with normal BMI. How do you go about it?
That's very easy to do.
This is actually an ideal candidate for a surgery.
Yeah.
This is we look for patients who have a normal BMI, and there you get the best results post surgery. You know, patients have normal BMI, and you have diagnosed it as OSA. You do a diagnostic of a drug-induced sleep endoscopy, find out the level of obstruction, and just clear it surgically. So that is. So there is another interesting question from Dr. Krishna Karkar from Mumbai. He's asking what % of snorers end up with CVA?
My take is, should I answer or you will answer?
Sir, please go ahead, sir.
Okay. If it is snoring without OSA, don't worry a lot because there won't be much effect. But if it is OSA, yes, you have to care for.
Dr. P.K. Mishra, sir, is asking treatment of tonsillitis in hyperthyroid patient. So hyperthyroid, sir, what is
hyperthyroidism is to be controlled first, and then the normal indications of tonsillectomy.
Exactly.
You cannot operate when the patient is
related disease.
Yeah. Right. But so, you cannot operate if the patient remains in a hyperthyroid state. May I have the next question, Samit?
Sir, interesting. Role of pillow by Dr. Ashok Masan. Sir,
okay, I think it is like, you know, there are a lot of, you go to Amazon, there are a lot of dilators, nasal openers, those things are available. So it is by hit and trial. If it works for you, it's good. If not, I don't think that. But yes, position of sleep does make a difference. And as in the one diagram Dr. Samit has shown, can be the level of obstruction when you lie down. That is at the back of the tongue when there is hardly any resistance. Anything you want to add?
No, sir. So idea is to use a pillow which is most comfortable for you.
Yes.
So that your breathing is not obstructing. So you can lie down on one side or maybe put a pillow beneath your neck, you know, to get a little extension of your neck. What happens when you pull the chin up, the airway will improve. So you can use a pillow underneath your neck. That helps.
Dr. Lalit Kongari asking, hi, good evening, Dr. Lalit. You have asked about if any UP3, there is a nasal regurgitation. I think a properly done U3P, if at all it happens, it is momentarily for a day or two. Once the tone returns, it will come to normal. I think you agree with me.
I think I do a lot of surgery for the OSA.
Never come across.
1 or 2 patients initially they complain.
Yeah. For a day or two.
It's settled. So if you look for that dimple and you don't go beyond that dimple on the palate, so chances are that you will not cause regurgitation. And I think that I was looking for that percent thing when I was a few papers that almost there are reports that snorers with CVA, one research I saw was 10%. 10% of snorers end up with CVA. And there was another study which said 5%. So that's huge. Yeah. That's actually a huge data coming out that people who snore or have OSA getting CVA is quite high. So if we can detect it, treat it, we can reduce a lot of morbidity and mortality.
And there are studies after treatment of OSA, the hypertension has come
It
to
gets
normal.
treated, and it
So
gets
it is a retrograde studies as well. Next question, Samit.
Sir, there is Dr. Nilesh Mehta asking that a patient of OSA using CPAP regularly with satisfactory outcome, can he go for surgery for a better outcome? Depends. If the CPAP is working, so he might as well continue with it. But if the BMI is normal and there is and we have done a drug-induced sleep endoscopy, we know what the obstruction is, then definitely with surgery he will benefit. But if it is a multi-level collapse and CPAP is working, so we might as well leave him with this CPAP.
One should not rather interfere.
Yeah.
There is one from Jamnagar, Dr. JP Sonagara. Patient comes to my clinic and tell that whenever he sleeps supine, he is suffering from snoring, not in the right or left. I think I have already covered the position. If he can change it and if it is good with the weight loss and conservative, it should be good enough.
Yeah.
So anything else, Mr. Ajay, if there is any question? I think from our boxes, we have read.
I think, sir, we have covered a lot.
Okay.
Yeah. One question from Dr. Dilip Kumar, who says that is chronic pharyngitis dangerous or it is related to the snoring? Chronic pharyngitis?
Yeah, maybe, because as I said, partial obstruction of upper airway. And if you see why there is the snoring, I ask my patient to try to imitate which is the part which is maximum vibrating. If I show it to you, if you can see me like this, this is the soft palate. This is vibrating maximum. So if there is a pharyngitis, there is a narrowing, and to produce this sound, you have to make the pharynx narrow. If it is an open mouth, you cannot produce this sound. This is the basic physiology, as I will like to explain. Anything you want to add, Samit?
Yeah, sir. You see, chronic pharyngitis in patients who snore can also be because of LPR.
Yes.
Because you see, most of our patients who are obese can have LPR, leading to chronic pharyngitis. So it is definitely there related. And
for that matter, even post-nasal drip also in case of DNS.
Post-nasal drip. So again, if the chronic pharyngitis patient is developing OSA, then of course it can be dangerous. So you'll have to evaluate the patient properly.
We must look for the causes of chronic pharyngitis. First, treat that.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
So I think, sir, we have covered most of the questions, and I am thankful to Dr. Samit Lal sir, Dr. Prakash Mukha sir, for their excellent deliberation. And I think across the country, every doctor must be amazed, and this time maybe the value for time, I would say, unlike value for money, people say it is value for time. So I request Jaideep Bose, who is my zonal sales manager based at Kolkata, he will give the vote of thanks to the audience who have participated to this program. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. First of all,
I will like to thank the Sun Pharma. Before that, I will like to thank the Sun Pharma for giving us a platform and educate our colleagues. Dr. Samit Lal also made it very good, lucid presentation. And I have chipped in my little bit, whatever I could have.
Thank you very much, sir. You've been excellent as usual. And I thank Sun Pharma for giving us an opportunity. Because I often feel that this is one area where I think education of patients is important, because we are missing out on something. Yeah. And if we spread as our community, our doctor community, it is our duty to spread our awareness about OSA, and if we can even contribute a little to it, I mean, I'm very thankful.
Samit, even in the ENT doctors, OSA has often been discussed. As I said in my opening remark, in this lockdown period, there were at least 15 sessions on OSA, different modalities. But nobody talks of snoring. That gets a backseat. And that is the one warning sign. That's why when you told me about the topic of interest to all, I said, let us put us snoring. And once you talk of snoring, OSA has to come. Over to you, Jaideep.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Dr. Lal, for your nice talk in the evening. And sir, also I would like to thank Dr. Munka for moderating the session so nicely. And I'm sure that almost 1,400 delegates were attending the session, and all of them have enriched their experience and all. And I am sure that in next time also, whenever you are going to plan this kind of academic session, for in specialty also, in some in ENT specialty also, exclusive ENT specialty, we are going to do some webinars also. We will be seeking your help and support for that matters.
Any day, any day. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you, sir. Thank you once again, sir, from all Salt Pharma, sir.